as I've become more public about my disdain for all the government intervention in our private lives, I've been getting more comments, especially relating to masks. It's just a mask, not a big deal, wear it. But then that's going to be, it's just a vaccine, not a big deal, get it. And on and on and on it's going to go. As Franklin said, if you give up a little bit of essential liberty in exchange for security, you deserve neither security nor liberty. That's obviously a paraphrase. Why did he say that back in the 1800s? Or maybe the 1700s? Because he knew the slippery slope it was, and how dangerous it was, and how governments, every government, which is just men and women running it, a lot of times it's, in the past it's been just men, every government is run by humans. Every human wants to exert more and more control because that solidifies their power more so. They do everything they can to gain more power and to prevent anything that can challenge their power. So as a result, as a first principle, governments forever grow, expand, and exact more control. And that's why Thoreau wrote Civil Disobedience in response to slavery in the Mexican-American War. Even back then, he said every citizen must civilly disobey, because if you don't, the machine, as he called it, of government will continually. So let's look at a couple of these actual research studies. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Whether or not this video even stays up or doesn't get removed, I don't know. YouTube's doing a lot of crazy stuff lately. But let's just look at this. I'll have links to these below, or maybe it was even a video that I found where I found these. Okay, so let's look at this first study. Well, before we even get to that, actually, let's look at the Louisiana Department of Health. Happening today, the first 500 people who show up for COVID-19 testing at LSU's stadium will receive a coupon, I guess they mean coupon, for a McDonald's value meal. To pre-register, click here. Now, what I don't understand about this is you're trying to get a bunch of people to come together to one area to congregate to get tested for something that tends to apparently spread when a lot of people come together. So by getting a test, what do you learn? And that test probably can't show what's happening in real time when you congregate and go to this place. So it's like these things are absurd. People don't understand the incentives. Charlie Munger said, show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. Hospitals get paid. States are getting paid. My understanding is they're getting paid. The higher the cases go, the more money that's going out, the more they can perpetuate this lockdown and these draconian measures. Let's get to masks. Wearing a mask sucks, however I wear one. If the CDC recommendations are not correct, then we have all been inconvenienced, right? That is not true, right? Because government never retracts what it does. It tends to just do more and more and more. So mask wearing, they're trying to say, is the new normal. And thus it will just lead to now vaccines, now travel passports, now blah, 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 until there will be no freedoms left whatsoever. And this is what Huxley wrote about in Brave New World and Orwell's 1984. There's bits from each of those that are very prophetic to show you exactly what's going on today and why everybody should be very concerned and should civilly disobey and should say enough is enough of this nonsense. So she goes on this long comment. I mean, I don't know if it's worth reading. I mean, she seems pretty like she's trying to be calm or whatever. That's good. So I respect that. The shutting down of America, in my opinion, is not necessarily the level that is shut down. Okay, I agree with that. I'm a woke pharmacist, meaning the method of causing pathology and managing chronic disease with drugs and procedures is BS. Great. I agree that the best defense of any virus is exposure to pathogen in general is health optimization. Yes. Blah, 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 blah. But I digress. I think the conspiracy message, civil disobedience, distracts from your message. I don't agree with that, right? Because again, I feel like this is a civic duty. And as these things go, if you look throughout history, every failed civilization in history, almost no civilization has lasted a long time. Every single one, there's just ruins that you go to visit. Will the future humans of 2100 visit America and look at the White House or the Senate building and it'll be like ancient Rome, ruins, and be like, oh, look what they did. They got so egotistical. They exacted more control. It became a police state, and then it crumbled because there was a civil war, Revolutionary War. Like, this is all connected. Most people don't want to hear it. It's too much for them to comprehend. It causes too much cognitive dissonance. The idea that you believe something, or you've been following the news every day and you're plugged in, and then some crazy person comes over and tells you that it's all a joke, all a scam, all a sham. That dissonance in your mind, usually most people, they respond to that, even though they don't even know it's there. They respond to distance in their mind by attacking the messenger and labeling them conspiracy theorists, crazy, wacko. Nothing I'm saying right now can fall into those labels at all. I'm talking about things that are happening in broad daylight. You can literally look at the Black Lives Matter protests and see the amount of absurdity that is happening at the state government level, where mayors and politicians and all these people are doing things or ignoring things that are completely against the law. They're either doing things against the law, or they're not prosecuting people that are blatantly in broad daylight, on camera even, break the law. Releasing people that have defamed statues and government property and things like that. Buildings have been burnt down and protesters walk free, or the police don't even try to stop them. I know I digress, but this is all connected. A country, a government, a people, a society is a very complex thing. We're talking about millions of people. We're talking about trillions of complexities and connections. So I replied, Audra, since you know how to read research papers, look into the mass research. It will let you down. Then look at the political angles being used by and the public being manipulated, and all the incentive structures like hospitals getting paid to show that everyone's COVID, right? And you see exactly what Charlie Munger meant when he said, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. America, and this is the really important thing to keep in mind. This is why the mass stuff, the suppression of freedom rights in the name of safety, things like the Patriot Act, these things are so freaking dangerous. Slavery used to be legal in the United States of America. Let's just think about that a second. Slavery used to be legal in the United States of America. Times were different, this, that, whatever. What makes us think that 2020, at this little dot in the time scale, that we have it figured out, or that it can't change this way or that way? To think that is a complete and utter denial of everything. It's a denial of history. It's a denial of what's going on right now. It's a denial of the Constitution. It's a denial of freedom of speech, freedom of the Ninth Amendment, protection of medical freedoms, on and on and on and on. And this can all be understood by looking at something like mandatory masks, or you go to jail, or you get a fine, $2,000 fine in Austin. In Inglewood, Colorado, they can put you in jail for a year for not wearing a mask. Like, this is America. It's founded on the land of the free, the home of the brave, and it's becoming a clown show. Back to masks, I know. 2020, effectiveness of N95 respirators versus surgical masks against influenza. A systematic review and meta-analysis. So they took a total of 6 randomly controlled trials involving 9,100 participants. There was no statistical significant differences in preventing laboratory-confirmed influenza or laboratory-confirmed respiratory viral infections, laboratory-confirmed respiratory infection, and influenza-like illness using N95 and surgical masks. Now, guess what? N95 are considered the gold standard for blocking out particles, but they did not prevent in any way. They're literally saying they could not show it at all, that they prevented the spread of any of these viruses, diseases, whatever. Therefore, the use of N95 compared with surgical masks is not associated with a lower risk. This other one is N95 respirators versus medical masks for preventing basically same thing. No significant difference in the incident. Hospital, age 18 years, working full-time in high-risk rewards, medical mask, cloth mask. So there was a control group for cloth masks. Used the mask on every shift for four weeks. The rates of all infection outcomes were highest in the cloth mask arm. So they're saying that the rates of infection outcomes were highest in the cloth mask. Statistically significantly higher in the cloth mask compared with the medical mask. Cloth mask also had significantly higher rates of ILI compared with the control arm. Penetration of cloth masks by particles were almost 97% and medical masks 44%. So even medical masks, we're saying, like, they're not effective. The study of the first RCT of cloth masks results caution against the use of cloth masks. Reuse of cloth masks and poor filtration may, and here's the kicker, guys. Here it goes. Let me get it back. Get off Zoom. What are you doing? Reuse of cloth masks and poor filtration may result in increased risk of infection. But guess what? If I'm in Texas, I can walk into a store like this. Hey guys, bah. If I were to put a message like this on a platform that represents like millions of Americans, you would see so much hate. I've heard from friends that have posted things about masks challenging the narrative, and they have been attacked. A friend of mine got called names, you're a BIT, you're this, you're that, you're a loser, you should die, like literal craziness. And you see this all the time. There's a lot of crazy people. There's a lot of crazy morons that can vote. Socrates, Plato, they didn't necessarily like that idea, which is why they were more a fan of a republic than a democracy, but I won't get into that. it shows you the absurdity that's going on. And it shows you how easily manipulated millions of people are when the government and the media broadcast whatever they want to broadcast. They've done these lockdown measures where they've enforced mask orders and social distancing and nonsense like this, closed down inessential businesses. They're going to make it so that people starve, that go without food, that have ruined their life's work. This is all things that have been in response. What are they going to do for months and months and months afterwards? They're going to do whatever they can to justify what they did. They're not going to come out and say, we were wrong. We overreacted. We this, that, whatever. The political implications of this nonsense are happening in broad daylight. And people ignore it because it causes cognitive dissonance. They don't want to think about it. Like, they got to worry about that. Like, we all have to fight back. We all have to civilly disobey. And this hopefully gives you at least a step in the right direction. If you think mask wearing is okay or whatever, that's fine. You know, you can do that yourself. But I see it as a larger problem. I see it, it's not even the mask itself. It's what, you know, the forcing of a mask implies. It's the violation of constitutional rights. And it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery step in the wrong direction. And if you look back in history, these things they never come back. They just go forward. So it's always one step. It's Patriot Act. Then it's Snowden coming out telling us that the government spies on us without a search warrant, in stark illegal violation of the Constitution. A couple people write some articles about it. A couple people are mad about it. And then people just go right back because they want the convenience of their phone. And the idea of, I'm not doing anything illegal, so I don't care. Just wait. Just wait till you are doing something illegal, or you get prosecuted for something that you did illegally in the past that is now illegal. To think that that can't happen, if you look at history, if you look at time rights, if you look at how these things work, you should be very afraid. You should be protecting your freedoms. You should be standing up for them before you have none of them left. And if you have kids, if you have a family, you should be extremely, as I am, worried for their future, to the point where get a plan B, which you can actually learn about up here. I've been working on that myself, and I'm getting to the point where I feel pretty comfortable with it for a lot of reasons, but I would highly, highly recommend doing that. Buy gold, buy Bitcoin, buy some of these things, understand inflation, understand what's going to probably happen to the dollar. I know I can go on and on. We're already at 15 minutes, a little bit longer than I'd like with this video, but it's kind of crazy. Hey, Colin here. Got a freebie for you. Click on the button below to go to the ancestralmind.com and download the 7 Principles of Living Wild. This is a short PDF that's got some of the main principles, such as real food, sleep, movement, and a couple more that are going to help you live more ancestrally in accordance with your genes.